We are so glad that you're here to join us today. We have an exciting presentation ahead. So let's get started. So a little bit of a welcome today. I'm Christine Killand, a consultant at CERC. I am also here with my colleagues. Holly Ryan is in the space and Stephen Profit as well. We are also here with our CSE partners, Kari Sullivan-Custer, and Jay Brown couldn't be with us today. We have an exciting presentation today by Najla Staggers from the Governor's Prevention Partnership on mentoring. We are looking forward to that content and how it really can help us with our attendance and engagement work in our school districts. I'm going to wrap up at the end with just some very quick slides on upcoming attendance and engagement meetings and reminders of our next Talk Tuesdays ahead. So just a little quick overview of what's in the Superintendent's Digest. And again, some of these things you might have seen before. We repeat just in case there are some new people in the space right now. But we have some great resources. Again, the QR code is on the bottom of your screen along with the link. So you could hit that at any time if you're interested in viewing any of this information. There is a resource for talking to students, families, and staff about the conflicts in the Middle East. There is a contest out there for the CT-DOT SNALPLO naming contest. If that interests you or for your school or students, again, you could review that. Connecticut's 2024 Paraeducator of the Year is Anne-Marie Murphy. We have, and it's exciting, a press release on the LEAP effect, which is something we talk about a lot here. We really say how LEAP is really working and we're excited about it in the state. So really take some time, and I'm sure we'll have more information on that to come. But if you have a moment to really read through some of the information on the LEAP effect, it really is worth your time to dive in. We also have the school discipline data that was posted on EdSite with suspension rates, district tiers, incidents, sanctions, and bullying. So again, checking out EdSite and some of those features around it. CSE also launched its grades K-5 computer science model curricula. Also, the new entry age for kindergarten, which was passed in the last legislative session, considerations for Connecticut schools. It is a really great resource. We have a lot of districts with questions around that, and this resource will help you. And I'm sure there'll be further information to come to help guide districts. And we also have the Connecticut Special Education Data System, CT-SEDS. It's a pulse survey, and I know CT-SEDS is something a lot of districts are having, right in the midst of right now and having a lot of questions around. So that might be something to really look at. We have a press release, Governor Lamont and Commissioner Russell Tucker. They announced $11.5 million to 46 school districts to boost the high dosage tutoring. Another press release from Governor Lamont to announce Kiana Foster Morrow is Connecticut's 2024 Teacher of the Year. And again, just released, and we've been promoting this as well, the Bright Spots for Improving High School Student Attendance in Connecticut, another valuable resource. We're doing a lot of work around that and having discussions, and we'll probably have further information on that too as we move along in the year. But really taking some time to read through that would be really valuable. We have the 2022-23 Education Financial System, Special Education Excess Cost Grant System, Public School Information System, Independent Accountants Report. I know that's kind of long and wordy, but it does have a lot of valuable information about some of these expenditures. And we have the student recruitment for the choice programs and specialized schools. So there's some information on that as well. Other than that, I am now going to turn it over to Kari Sullivan-Custer. Kari?
Thank you, Christine. Wow, that was a lot. And that's the Superintendent's Digest that gets posted every Monday and Thursday by the State Department of Education. An email goes out to every superintendent, and we share it here so that you get it sooner than later, because we know sometimes those things can take some time to get out to everyone. But how many of these things did you see are related to improving attendance? So many of them can really help with our home visits and answering families' questions around kindergarten entry age. How many families have questions about this, and how many home visitors may be getting those questions? Or even the conflict in the Middle East, and we have home visitors going out with families. Make sure they have these tools, and so we share them with you, and we hope that you share them with others in your district or community who can also use them in their work. I shared this last time. We don't yet have chronic absence data for September and October. The performance office is working on this. This is daily attendance, and it compares pre-pandemic, well, at the first year of the pandemic, 2019-20, to end of the year last year and to the beginning of year this year. And you can see the beginning, we're green for this year. And I can tell you that we're doing well. I've been out to many beginning of year meetings with our opportunity districts this year, and every single one of them are pleased with attendance. It's not pre-pandemic, certainly, but we're definitely seeing positive trends in our attendance. You can see here that kindergarten, which is a worry area for us, has a pretty good average daily attendance compared to the end of last year. But you can see that our high school average day attendance is dipping. Once you get down in the low 90s, I don't think that's good average daily attendance. I've been at meetings and it's like we had 90 average daily attendance, and that's getting into close to chronic absence. So we should have chronic absence numbers at our next Talk Tuesday. They are the districts, your school district gives the data to the performance office on the 10th of the following month. And if we have all the data and it's all accurate and clean, then we can release the data. But sometimes it takes a little bit back and forth with districts, especially at the beginning of the year, in order to get it right so that we can publish it and feel confident that it's accurate. So watch for September and October data. I'll let you know when it comes out, and we'll definitely have it at next Talk Tuesday. Any questions about this? I hope everyone is seeing improved attendance. I see some folks I've spoken to recently on here who have said that they're feeling pretty good about it this year. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share with you some of the supports that CSDE has put in place so that you are aware of sort of the comprehensiveness of everything that's happening and that districts can take part in. And so with our partnership with CIRC, I call it the CIRC attendance team with Steve Profit, Christine, Anne Marie, and Alyssa, and Holly, who's here, who is so responsible for Talk Tuesday and helps us so much. So we have Talk Tuesdays every other Tuesday with different topics. We are open to hearing from you. Put it in the chat. Have you ever had a moment where you're like, boy, I wish they'd talk about this on Talk Tuesday? Or another moment where you said, boy, I'll bet others would love to hear what we're doing, and you could share it in Talk Tuesday. So we're always looking for topics, and so if you have anything, put it in the chat or let me know. We just kicked off a couple weeks ago our affinity group on high schools and small group conversation around what's happening in high school attendance. We're using the bright spots to inform some of the conversation. And we have our first in-person meeting next week. So if you or someone in your district is interested in high school bright spots, just put a comment in the chat. We have, I don't know if anybody knows this, but we have an attendance advisory group. And we're going into our 4th year of the attendance advisory group. And it's a mix of CSDE folks and district folks and community partners and we try and have it's very diverse and reflective of the areas where we are focusing on attendance. So we have someone who represents English learners, someone from SPED. We have different size districts. We have district and state administrators, and this is all managed by CIRC. We have people who work on family engagement, and partners like CPAC has joined us this year. This year we have charter schools coming on to represent the needs of the charter schools. This group is what feeds into, gives us our feedback, and also gives us good ideas, like the affinity group came out of the advisory team. So, and then we also have another leg of this work is the LEAP team with Kraken Advance, Francisco and Caroline. I'm sure some of you all have met them, or most of you have. Coordinate our LEAP district coordinators. They're like the facilitators for the grant, for the districts that get grants. So they will work with them, help them implement a LEAP, help them coordinate. They also do the Connecticut Home Visit Hub, which is the LEAP 101 trainings and connections meetings. They just help publish the LEAP Effect. And a lot of writing was done. Caroline Calhoun, I'll give her a shout out, did a lot of the writing in the LEAP Effect. And we're developing a training based on the LEAP Effect, which will take all of those structures and lessons learned from LEAP and how to implement LEAP within a structure, an attendance, a system for addressing attendance. They also provide individualized district support for LEAP and overall attendance strategies and structure. So if you need support in your district and you want it to be more individualized, you can reach out to Caroline or Francisco or myself, and we can help with that. Access to data. There's the monthly reports, which I show on every Talk Tuesday. Those we just started those with the pandemic. There's EdSite and EdSite Secure. I just want to mention EdSite Secure is a password protected portal where you can go in and see student specific information. You have to have the password, but it's over time, and it shows indicators of their attendance, of their behavior. If you have new students coming into your school, you can look at their history. It's all in EdSite Secure, and your administrator can help you with that if you're interested in that. Attendance Works is our partner. We're contracted with them again to do the LEAP effect. They just did the LEAP effect and the high school bright spots brief, and they're going to help us with kindergarten research. And then the statewide attendance awareness campaign, I've spoken about it. It's going to be released, announced by the governor's office. There's an online toolkit, and this is so exciting. Caroline Calhoun helped with this because CRAC is or EdAdvance is a partner in this work. It's going to be a pop-up store coming soon where districts will be able to go to a website and purchase Connecticut attendance awareness campaign materials and have them just delivered right to you. So there'll be posters and banners were really popular. So O'Donnell is designing products that districts will be able to go and order. There'll be a window of time, and you'll be able to go to that pop-up store. So I just kind of wanted to share with you, if you're not aware of everything that's going on, I wanted to make sure you were aware of it. Next slide, please. Here is a LEAP effect. I put this in here again so you can have the link if you haven't been on Talk Tuesday in the last couple sessions or you're new. And there's also a link to the trainings. There's another training in December and one for January. So you can sign up for trainings with that link. Next slide, please. And here's the Talk Tuesday brief. The Bright Spots brief. We had it on Talk Tuesday. So there's a recording of that Talk Tuesday session on the Talk Tuesday page, which I think is the next slide. So here is information about Talk Tuesday. So far this year, we've had Hartford Public Schools, ACE Team, the Bright Spots, the Better With You Attendance Awareness Campaign, Understanding and Interpreting Monthly Attendance Data with Brianna Hennessy from the Performance Office. And then we had a couple of sessions over the summer, one on school climate and one on Attendance and Engagement 101, which is fantastic for people who are new to a district or new to an attendant or just an attendance team. It's less than an hour. So all of these are on the Talk Tuesday portal. They're recorded, so the recordings are up there, their slides are up there, and you're welcome to join. If anybody is interested in Talk Tuesdays in your district, they can go to Trumba to sign up, or there's a link to sign up on the Talk Tuesday page as well. Next slide. I think that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions. Reach out, put a question in the chat, and I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kari. And I'd like to now introduce Najla Staggers from the Governor's Prevention Partners. So Najla, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. So thank you. I'm so glad to be here today. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm here to just share with you a little bit about school-based mentoring and what it looks like. And I'm calling this Building School Love and tapping the power of school-based mentoring and recommendations and some inside info on our newest initiative here at the Governor's Prevention Partnership. So welcome. I just want to kind of get a feel for who's here. If you can just in the chat for me for a second, just post who you are and what you do, just so I have an idea of who's here, just your role. Can you just share out for me, Christine, a couple of people who are here, just so I can just get a vibe of who's here with us and the company we're in?
Yeah, no, it's great. We have a wide range. So we go from as administrators to climate and culture and equity specialists to student engagement, community engagement and family support, social workers, coordinators, office manager, and
Perfect.
some superintendents, assistant superintendents are also in the space.
Perfect. So I'm Najla Staggers. I do have a background in education. I've taken on various roles in education. I've been a teacher, I've been in administration, and I've actually done some work with grants. And now I'm working here at the Governor's Prevention Partnership. We are a nonprofit who works in both prevention and mentoring. I'm going to discuss with you today about the mentoring side. We are an affiliate of Mentor National. And we provide mentoring training services and workshops and any services in the area of mentoring that are supported in research-based and evidence-based practices. In the chat really quickly, I want everybody just to think about how someone has made a difference. And if you can just put who that person was. For instance, I think of my TT, who I call now, but she was a teacher at Wilbercross High School, and her name was Gloria Rodriguez. And I think of her often, but she was my person or my go-to. She was my mentor. So in the chat, just thinking of a person that has made a difference to you, and I could put inside of that chat my teacher. So I can put teacher and just holding that thought of who has made a difference to you. And if you could just go ahead and put that in the chat, that would be fantastic. Who's made a difference to you?
It looks like we have a wide range here from teachers to parents to mentors to principals, coaches, mentors. Yeah.
You know, when I came to the Prevention Partnership, my idea of mentoring or what mentoring could do was really limited. And I had been in education for a really, really long time, over 20 years. And as a teacher, I saw a lot. I thought a lot about what was happening in the classroom. I thought a lot about why students would become disengaged and how to re-engage them. And when I got to the partnership, I had this idea, this 1980s, 1990s idea of what mentoring was, right? You know, this is my brain on drugs. Any questions? And that was really where my head was with mentoring. But mentoring is so big and broad. And basically, we all, at some point in some realm, have been a mentor to someone. And we all, as adults, caring adults, can be mentors to youth and students, and especially in a school environment. When we are educators, we have to always be thinking about the social and emotional well-being of students, because that is what's going to harness and help us grow learners, but help them stay engaged and support attendance. And so school-based mentoring is one of those school-based interventions that I see as a way forward post-pandemic, and a way to engage schools and bringing students back who are disengaged. And who can those people be in the school to get this work kind of going and thinking in that direction? You could think about teachers as your population, any school personnel that students might relate to. You could even consider corporate partners that you have connections to who are already working in your school. And who else are you thinking right now that if you were thinking of putting some form, and you don't have to have an idea right now, of people either in your community or people within your school, who are some staff or personnel that you are thinking could possibly be supports to support an idea of implementing a school-based mentoring? Just in the chat, just one idea. It can be facility staff. It can be paraprofessionals. Who are you thinking? If I had to think of my school, just quickly in the chat, just a few. So what are we seeing in the chat, Christine?
So right
Any?
now we have coach and social worker, paras teachers, police and fire department.
Before we can start to think about school-based mentoring, we have to start thinking about our capacity, who we already have, what are the possibilities, who's around us, what connections we already have, what partnerships, what outreaches do we have of caring adults that we already have access to start even thinking about what would school-based mentoring look like, possibly, and what and who would help support that. This quote here, mentoring at a K-12 schools, whether by volunteers or school personnel, brings caring adults and older peer relationships to the lives of more youth and has been for several decades. It's research-based and it's proven. You can even decide that in the mentoring model at a school that you can even have peer-to-peer. But it's making sure that some of these systems are set up appropriately, because all of these ideas around school-based mentoring, which we'll get into in a moment, really help support and engage youth and bring them back, especially if you're seeing numbers around attendance where youth are being disengaged. This is a solution, one solution to schools and trying to re-engage youth. We're really excited because we are partnering with CSDE on some school-based initiatives and school-based mentoring. And I'm using this as a pitch now because there will be districts that we are going to be reaching out to do some of this efforts. And if you're showing an interest, possibly in doing some of this work, I'm here now just to add a little pitch to the audience and whoever may be watching and viewing these videos later on, that the Governance Prevention Partnership is going to be working on a school-based mentoring initiative in partnership with CSDE. And so that more information is to come. When thinking about school mentoring and envisioning a mentoring program, it doesn't have to be another thing that is already existing on top of what is already within your school. It's really shifting the thinking around and considering what already exists in our school, and then how do we guide so existing programs possibly into a mentoring space to support students and engage them back in. And so some key questions to get started when thinking about a mentoring program are, what are the structures that already exist in your school? And thinking about who and how you'll attack this initiative. So thinking about meetings and trainings and onboarding. If you are even considering an idea of school-based mentoring, these are some things to get started on and thinking, to move your thinking along for implementation. Also too, how are mentors identified and selected would be something to consider when you're thinking about this, and then what policies need to be implemented in order to lift this level of work. Sometimes schools will ask, well, what does that actually look like? There isn't a one-size-fits-all to school-based mentoring. You have to think about the school and the environment, and all of these have to be considerations and to consider what your mentoring program would look like at your school. But things to take into consideration, again, is the commitment that it takes, making sure that you have developed a mentoring platform or how you'll think about a mentoring platform. Will your mentoring be virtual? Will it be one-to-one in person or virtual? Will it occur in a group? Will it happen in a team? Will it be teacher to teacher or peer mentoring? Some of these structures already exist in schools. It could possibly be someone's already doing an intervention in math and literacy, and one of those sessions each week become a mentoring session. So some of these shifts about adding it into your day and into a program at school could possibly happen. And I'm just going to stop. Are there any thoughts so far in the chats or questions that are popping up?
I don't see anything right now, but anyone could feel free to do that, and I'll make sure to check and let you know.
Is everybody with me still? Is everybody with me? All right, here we go. Keep going. So things to think about when, and if you decide to implement a school-based mentoring program, the recruitment process. It's really critical to consider your recruitment process. Who will you recruit, which we've touched base on a little bit. How will you recruit? That's going to be very important. If you're considering teachers, how will you recruit them? How will you keep them engaged? And then also too, is there something, outside of their contract to consider? Would it happen during the day? Is it something that would happen outside of the school hours? So all of these things are important. And you always have to consider some hurdles when implementing something like this. But the recruitment process is going to be critical to the type of program you're able to implement. The next part when considering a school-based mentoring program is the training and scheduling some time. How will this training occur at your school? Will it be on site? How many hours? What will the expectations be? The relationship development, some training on bias, which we'll touch on in a minute, monitoring, and that first meeting orientation. These are critical to lifting the level of a school-based mentoring, especially if you decide to go with outside partners, because the biggest thing in developing a strong mentoring relationship outside of a school is making sure you have an ideal mentor-mentee match. And so making sure that mentors' biases about their assumptions, if they're in a partnership that has no relationship to education whatsoever, make sure that they are considering students' biases, and making sure that the matches really do match up and align are going to be critical to some of the training work when you decide to do some implementation. This is always a question that comes up when people are considering, or school districts are thinking about school-based mentoring. And they're thinking about, who are the students? Who should we consider? How do we select them? And these are all great questions, because sometimes, when you're putting something in place, you're trying to re-engage, but you're trying to make sure you're choosing wisely who you are re-engaging, and that when you're considering also to the mentors you've selected. So what students you'll serve, you can consider doing student interviews to make sure that this partnership, because this is a valuable resource, is really going to work well. You might consider a priority list of students that you know and families that are already asking and really trying to engage and re-engage students back. So you might have a priority list. And so you're really looking for specific types of mentors as well. You might consider teachers in your guidance counselor recommendations. And then also too, all of the new mentor workshops and trainings and ongoing supports that may be already in your building might be giving you some recommendations as well if you have partnerships that exist. Things to consider when doing this type of work, right? Like, this type of work is going to require some time. And for mentors too, the frustration can happen because students may or may not show, and so they may not feel successful. And so sometimes mentors might become disengaged, especially if they are not part of your school system or your network. So that's important to think about and consider when implementing a school-based mentoring program, because you want to keep a pipeline of mentors coming so that you can consistently and sustain your program. But you also want to consider things like when mentors back out as well. Those are all considerations and hurdles that school districts should consider when they are thinking about implementing a form of a school-based mentoring program. I just kind of want to wrap this up, and then we can have a conversation and talk a little bit about it. I started the school year at the commissioners. She shared about the possibilities, right? All the possibilities that schools in this year that connect. And I think that school-based mentoring is such a huge possibility and an intervention in a way to work on attendance and engagement and bringing youth back, linking youth with a one-to-one match possibly, or within a group of a caring adult who has their best interest and who can advocate for them, is so much more impactful and will be a lifelong change in their lives, because that's somebody that they continuously can go back to. And ultimately, what we're really trying to get youth are ways to form and build relationships, which will carry them throughout their lives. And so the floor is open for a Talk Tuesday so that we can talk back to each other about some ideas around school-based mentoring, especially if you're thinking about it, what you're considering about it. If you've tried it would be fantastic to add to the conversation. And then some hurdles that you may have come upon. We're always looking for ways to improve and lend a hand. So the floor is open, the chat is open, and let's just get this conversation going a bit.
We do have something that came into the chat while you were presenting. And it says, amazing programs and always more is better. Will there be adding programs, especially for incoming ninth graders we call rising ninth graders? a critical grade that needs extra resources and mentoring, absent parents, homelessness, and I can go on and on, is such a need and must, not only for New Haven, but for all of Connecticut.
I know in the initiative that we're working on, our initiative expands 712 because we focus on youth and our initiative is focused on youth. But I'm totally in agreement that, when looking at the mentoring spaces, but looking at youth, looking at specific frames of youth that you're seeing that with large impacts, you may consider, and I know schools do this in some forms of academies, but looking even at that pocket of youth coming in and looking at some programming, what would it look like, to really develop some type of corporate partnership and making sure that ninth graders have a mentor. And that's something that school districts can really consider as they're supporting youth, because that's one way to keep freshmen engaged. And knowing that somebody there is helping support that transition makes everything possible. Other questions in the chat?
So nothing further in the chat. Cara did just remind us, I love this, of Commissioner Russell Tucker's infinite possibilities motto for this year. And just like you were talking about, really thinking about like what we could do, thinking outside of that box and further realms of how we can implement some of these things. So she just kind of put that thought there.
Is anyone currently doing anything around mentoring or similar in that capacity at their school? What are they doing to support engagement and doing some type of peer mentoring or peer support within their school district? Because I know there's tons of schools and districts, people are already doing that work or seeing some of this work happen. Just thoughts in the chat, or you don't have to stay in the chat. You can actually come off mute as well. We'd love to hear voices just to add to the conversation.
New Haven just did the Black and Brown Empowerment Conference yesterday for the incoming ninth graders, and they did it for the boys separately. And next week, actually, they're going to do it for the girls. So they did a really good conference, and they had over 100 ninth graders. I think it was more than 100. I don't even remember how much it was, but it was an amazing conference that they did at Southern Connecticut State University for our ninth graders, boys. And now they're going to do it for our girls next week, if I'm not mistaken. So that was really, really good. The mentoring that they got, they had the dropout prevention specialists go out, and we had a lot of guest speakers come out and talk to the kids. So it was really, really good. And next week, they're going to have the girls also come out. They're going to have guest speakers for the girls. So it was really empowering. And just the mentoring that we're getting, our department has reached out to get more training on to how to mentor our youth, not only to do dropout prevention, but also to mentor our children, because we can't just do dropout prevention. We also have to do mentoring. We have to talk about, what's going on. We have to understand what's going on in our community, what's going on in our homes, understanding our kids' backgrounds and what's going on exactly in our homes, to really find what's the problem at home, to be able to meet the need of the families. So that mentoring part, everybody has to be part of it. So with our home visiting program that we have, our part-timers, that's a must, and it's going well. It's really going well, and the numbers are showing it. So it's really going well for New Haven.
Shout out to the Elm City. I'm a product of New Haven Public Schools, so I love it. Love to hear it. Thank you for sharing. I love that, knowing that. Others? Because that's wonderful and that's encouraging for everybody else.
Does anyone here have a mentoring program in their school or their district that they want to share, a little bit about, or let us know that you have one? That would be helpful. You could just put it in the chat. I know Bridgeport has one, and New Haven has one. Middletown used to have one. I used to mentor in Middletown for the Middletown School District, and I can tell you that I think I got more out of it for personally than my mentee. I don't want to speak for him, but he's 23 now. So I started mentoring him when he was 11, and just a fantastic relationship for both of us.
Does anyone think about what are you doing currently this in your district that engages youth back in, that matches them with another person to build a relationship? How are you relationship building with youth in your district now? And then can you add that to the chat? For students that are disengaged or you're seeing attendance, how are you engaging with them? What's your solution?
So one of the responses is partnering with the Missing Piece for mentoring in our 7th and 8th grade school. And then the Bridge Academy has partnered with Elevate Bridgeport to run an in-house mentoring program. And again, going back to the previous comment on the Missing Piece, we have student advocates in our middle school and high school as well.
So there are components and pieces. So if your district is starting to think about, we really do need to have a piece of this work, and there are agencies out there, you're starting to hear those parts there. Other people in the chat or want to come off mute? Thank you for sharing. Those are helpful.
I think it was Charles A. Blango for New Haven. What we're working on now, particularly Hill House and Cross, that we're finding out that is a missing piece for us, that is pairing peers with peers. In addition to that, ninth graders that's coming in, but you have 11, 12th graders that's on the honor roll, can help them navigate through the process. For them that's disengaged, because it is a big transition from coming from elementary to high school. So that's we're working on them two particular schools. So we have mentors and then the mentees. So, but I think now that the younger people kind of can grasp to the older that been through that path, they kind of relate to them, to let them know it's cool to be in school.
How are you recruiting your mentors?
We're recruiting them that's on the honor roll, pretty much, or them that's not on, but them that's like they say if they're interested in basketball or football, and you have the freshmen, and because we realize our attendance, so we recruit them that way. And them who want to be in a Macy's program, that Macy's program is that honorary program that the students that so we're recruiting them in that aspect, that when we look at the students that was on the honor roll, because we have some students that missed 10 days but on the honor roll. Students that missed 11 days but on the honor roll, and they do well, but it's just that some of it is culture, that there's certain times that they got to take the trips, there's certain times, there's certain holidays, and it's very difficult to try to discourage that. So we're recruiting in that aspect and doing culture barriers, because you may have someone from Puerto Rico, but you may have someone else that's from Ecuadorian that trying to help them with the language barrier, that even though there's a slight difference, but it can help them navigate through the process if that's one thing that's hindering them.
What's important that you're bringing up are two things that I want to just highlight. If people are considering school-based mentoring, is that peer-to-peer mentoring piece. It's huge. Schools can implement something like that pretty quickly, really, and it provides, if you're looking for high impact, that's one way to lift the level, is adopting in a school-based mentoring program, adopting a peer-to-peer mentoring component is really important. You also mentioned the cultural barriers that we mentioned before, making sure that inside your mentoring, that you are putting some trainings in place to support your mentors, so that people are understanding, or the mentors that you're choosing recognize the differences that support the relationship, because we don't also want to create a relationship that is harmful, but we only create relationships with youth that are supporting and lifting them up. So those are really important pieces that you bring up. But also to highlight what's very positive about what's happening in New Haven too is that you're basing some of these connections on interest. And when you're basing some of these relationships, these school-based mentoring programs, and they're built upon relationships and peering based on interest, that really supports students' engagement. They have an interest and a desire to continue coming back, and that helps with the mentorship as well. And that really supports a positive school climate. Are there hurdles that people are feeling or seeing when they even think about this idea? And can you add some of those in the chat? Because those are some of the things that we would love to understand here at the partnership about some barriers too, so that we can see how this work can further travel across the state.
One of the things I think that can be a barrier is a misunderstanding of potential mentors of the role and thinking it's bigger than it has to be. It really is just spending time with a child or student and talking to really listening to that child and giving them an adult who cares and is going to be there for them. Before I mentored, I used to think, well, I'm going to have to like tutor him and I might need training. But it doesn't take a lot of training to just listen and to be present. And we all can do that. Just, any staff person in a school can do that just on a regular basis anyways. So it's not as hard as it sounds. The time commitment doesn't have to be significant. I had lunch with my mentee one day a week, Fridays. I had lunch with him and at his elementary school. And it really didn't take much time out of my schedule.
So we have some comments in the chat too, some possible barriers or challenges, teacher support, that all staff inclusion, making sure that all staff, and even I wanted to kind of mention too that sometimes as much as we try to pair the right mentor with the right mentee, sometimes it doesn't work out, or sometimes there are some challenges around that. So either how do we support it, or how do we navigate into something that's maybe that better pairing?
Sure. I think one part is really having that initial student interview, that intake, making sure having some systems in place when you are creating a school-based mentoring program. Sometimes we make this assumption that because this is a classroom teacher or someone in the building, they really understand youth. And that's a huge assumption that we're making, right? And so that we have to start really thinking about what is it that we want for this youth to benefit and get out of this relationship, and what is it that we also want the mentor to get out of this relationship. And at that point, what is this youth needing right now at this moment in time? And so that alignment then is really important. So having that student interview and them understanding what a relationship with a mentor is important, I think, but also to having that conversation with a mentor too, having that training, just even if it's a day of training, just so that they understand what it is, the commitment is, showing up for this person and having a conversation. Like Kari said, sometimes it's just listening, and what that looks like to step back and just listen to build that relationship, and trust is important too. And so those are some things that support that.
We also have another comment that came in. It's really good. Recruiting the mentors, matching student to mentors. And this is an important part, finding mentors for special needs of students, especially with behavioral challenges, that can really understand and navigate through that correctly.
Yeah, there are some challenges. One way that it's become an elevated way I'm seeing happen when I've been at Mentor National Conferences, and I'm seeing affiliates across the country who are engaging in school-based mentoring. They are adopting some virtual practices. And so these are across some really large states. And what they were seeing is relationships. It wasn't about just the physical connection, but it was about the conversation and the consistent conversation. And even that check-in, knowing that there was someone else out there in the world that was rooting for you, and that encouragement around that. And so we were seeing that across with the affiliates and partners who were implementing it. It was that having someone that I can know or have this expectation, even if it's once a month, that they're going to have this conversation and care about me, and it's my time. We were seeing such possibilities but the engagement level, that correlation that somebody's going to check in with me was elevated.
I see a potential with some of these. There you go. I see a potential with people who are doing LEAP home visits or parent-teacher home visits to make that handoff from a LEAP home visit where you get to know the family and the issues, and you may re-engage the family and have the student coming back to school. But when they come back to school, what's going to keep them there? Like a mentor or an intentional adult relationship that the child doesn't even realize is intentional. Somebody who just cares and asks that, why, we're glad to see you. We missed you when you weren't here. How are you? It's a great handoff. The two I see going together nicely.
Anything else in the chat?
Nothing at this time in the chat.
Our LEAP families from last year have stayed connected to those this year, and they have literally stayed connected to these DPSs or the part-timers, which is really nice.
Yes.
Because they kept their phone numbers, so they connected, and they have that line of communication between that bridge. So they have that bridge between the home and the school. That person is that bridge for them. So that's really important. So that's the mentor. So that person that worked with them last year through the home visiting program is probably going to be the one that's going to be this year also, or is probably going to be the one that's going to be working with them this year.
No.
If they're not, if they're not chronically absent this year, they're going to be probably the mentor for them this year, because they are that line of communication between home and school.
So there's that makes me think there's official mentors, like you are a mentor, right? And then there's the mentors, like you are just mentoring, right? And sometimes I think that those relationships created LEAP. I'm looking at Latasha Easterling and her school and LEAP home visitors are in the school, and they see the kids, and they know, my mom, and they're kind of cool anyways, right? These people that Latasha hires are young adults who the kids can identify with, and they see them in school and they're just happy to see them. So you don't have to say, oh, now you're a mentor, and it doesn't have to be so formal, official, right? Is that right, Najla?
Yes, it doesn't have to be formally official, because I think that the idea is creating this connection, creating this relationship is the most important step, right? And then making sure that you have a pipeline of mentors too, that you have this ongoing flow of caring adults. So if somebody is able to only commit to a month or two, you have the next and the next, but making sure students too, or mentees, are aware of the span of the relationship as well, because deciding and creating and building a relationship, you want the match to make a difference, one, but you also want students to have the expectation that some relationships also come to an end. And so that hopefully that journey and that engagement of going helps, it gets them there, but they also understand this continuous evolution of relationships. And so that I have this mentor for this time, but there's a possibility of getting more. And so that students too, keeping them engaged, that I'm building relationships, and throughout my journey in school, I'm going to meet multiple caring adults that continue and are looking out for me on this journey, so that they don't just have one, they have a network, they have their village finally. Right? Isn't that what we're trying to build for them? A caring adult network circle. Right? So that if there's not one, there's another, and there's another. And some mentors I use for this purpose. And some mentors will help me navigate this purpose. And that's what we're trying ultimately to get students to, because that's their ultimate independence. How do you navigate life? And then knowing my village, knowing my circle that I can rely on and depend on. And that's how you build love. That's how you build school love.
Right. Latasha.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on the last two, Kari and Najla, what you were just saying, very quickly, one of my LEAP home visitors, Michael Broom, is an African-American male And he's also a LEAP coach. And just last week, well, it's been in the works since the summer, but my home visitors are more embedded this year in their school. Like I hardly see them at the office, which is great because they're in their school. Because step one is, LEAP, building relationships and, making the connections with the family, getting the kids to come to school. But then I wanted them to go deeper. So I wanted them to do programming with their chronically absent students. And what Michael has done is he's created a mentor program called Next to Lead. And he wanted to get the families on board right away. So I was serving pizza and salad last week, and there were the students that he selected, and then there were the families there. And when he explained his mission and his goals and what he wanted to do and how he believes that these students are leaders, and they're fourth graders, by the way, because they're going to, once they leave elementary in my district, they go to fifth grade, which is a new school and it's bigger. So he's like, I want to help build these skills and do this and that. And two moms thanked him profusely. And one mom started crying because she said her student was at it was in a district last year, and she was literally getting phone calls every day about his behavior, every day about something. And she said at some point she thought to herself, it cannot be him. Like, I'm honest, I know my kid. And she was crying saying, thank you, because since he's been here in this school district, I have not gotten one phone call. And the fact that you want to elevate him to a leader, she was crying like happy tears, but it was just so powerful and impactful, going from a leave home visitor, chronic absenteeism, to, okay, you know what, now I'm going to get to know my CA students and their families even deeper than just attendance. So I just wanted to share that story about how, like you were saying, like you're a mentor, but you're doing mentoring, and it has to be meaningful and intentional, and it's hard work. So I just wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. I always think of this work. It stays in your mind. And this is my last piece, is that I what you said was I thought about the ING, mentor ring, right? It's this ing, it's ongoing. It's just, you're right. It doesn't stop. It's if it had past tense, it meant we pause. So this ing, remember they used to have nings, like this thing. So we are creating this system of this ongoing support, and it shouldn't stop, right? Just because students get great at something, I don't see a way forward for schools, honestly, to support the whole well-being of a child. And this is one way forward that you can literally create within the walls of your building to build some love.
I love that there was a comment in the chat while everyone was, bringing these points forward, and it's really good. A lot of kids would benefit for mentors, also need the stability outside the school. So talking about LEAP and those visits and those connections, whether they are dealing with housing or mental health or etc., there are usually other issues happening at the same time. So bringing to light, you're right, it is even outside the walls of the school. It's within community and families.
Thank you so much to everyone for having me here, inviting the Governance Prevention Partnership. I look forward to meeting so many of you in school districts. You'll probably see me around if we are able to partner with your school or district. Let me know. This posting of the PowerPoint and information you will also have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just so much information to think about, and really looking at the mentoring programs or what we have already starting to implement within the schools and reflecting on that. And we will send the PowerPoint out along with this will be posted on our Talk Tuesday website. So please feel free to review it, to share it. But as we're moving along, I did want to bring forward that here are our remaining dates for first 2023. We only have 2 more until the new year hits. So November 28th and December 12th. But then we have a great amount of Talk Tuesdays for the new year, and those you'll find on this slide. If you know somebody that would love to register for Talk Tuesday, it is an ongoing registration. So please click the link. Let us know if you need anything. Please reach out. Also, if anyone's interested as a district, you're doing something amazing, you're doing something you want to share and bring to our attention, please email us and let us know. We're always looking to really bring districts forward, to share. We have a lot of great feedback when we bring districts in and what they're doing, and we want to continue that. There's so many amazing things that we might not be aware of. So our emails are on this page. Please let us know. We'd love to have you come forward, even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes to present what you're doing. Bring it to light and let us know. But we do thank you for being with us today and engaging. Najla, we thank you so much for sharing with the Governor's Prevention Partnership supports and works with districts. It's great information. But we thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Najla. Excellent job.
Excellent.